The glass and steel behemoth that was Crossdeck Tower seemed to pierce the sky itself. Elena Vale took a deep, steadying breath, her fingers tightening around the portfolio in her hands. The air inside the lobby was cool and crisp, a stark contrast to the nervous heat flushing her cheeks. It hummed with the quiet, efficient energy of a place where billions were made before breakfast. Every person who walked by exuded a confidence she could only dream of. She walked into the skyscraper with trembling hands, clutching her arse, unaware that the man who would soon break her heart was already watching her from the top floor. From his penthouse office, Damien Cross watched the city below, a sprawling kingdom of concrete and light. He was the undisputed king of this domain, the CEO of Crossdeck Industries, a company that was revolutionizing global biotech. But that was just his public face. In the shadows, he was the alpha of the Crescent Moon Pack, a protector of the hidden werewolf elite, and his company was his fortress. His assistant buzzed through the intercom. "Mr. Cross, the final candidate for your personal secretary position is here. Elena Vale. Send her in," he replied, his voice a low growl. He turned from the window, his expression unreadable, his suit tailored to perfection. He prided himself on his control, on the icy demeanor that kept everyone at a distance. It was necessary. It was safe. The moment the office door opened, a scent hit him. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it cut through the sterile air like a lightning bolt. It was the scent of rain-soaked earth, wild lavender, and something else, something faintly familiar, something that stirred a part of him he kept locked away. He scanned her as she walked in. Human. Her heartbeat was steady, her scent clean of any wolf pheromones. So why did his instincts scream otherwise? Elena met his gaze, her chin held high despite the tremor in her hands. The man before her was even more intimidating than his reputation suggested. His eyes, the color of molten gold, seemed to see right through her. "Elena Vale," she said, her voice clearer than she expected. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Cross." He didn't return the pleasantry. Instead, he gestured to the chair opposite his massive desk. "Your sum is adequate." The word hung in the air, a clear dismissal. Elena felt a spark of defiance. "Adequate enough to get me to the final round, Mr. Cross." A flicker of something surprise, interest, crossed his features before being replaced by his usual cold mask. He leaned forward, his presence overwhelming the space between them. "My personal secretary is an extension of myself. They must be available 24/7. They must anticipate my needs before I voice them. They must be loyal, discreet, and unfailingly competent." The last three candidates couldn't handle the pressure. "What makes you think you can?" Elena met his challenging stare without flinching. "Because I don't buckle under pressure, sir. I thrive on it. I'm not here because I need a job. I'm here because I want this job. I'm the best person for it, and I'm ready to prove it." The tension in the room crackled. He grilled her with question after question, each one designed to trip her up, to expose a weakness. He snapped orders, hypothetical scenarios, and complex scheduling puzzles at her. She fired back each time, her answers professional, concise, and laced with a quiet strength that both irritated and intrigued him. She wasn't intimidated. She was impressive. "Your references speak of your organizational skills," he said, tapping a pen on his desk. "I need you to rearrange my entire international travel schedule for the next quarter. I want 3 different itineraries, accounting for time zone differences, private jet availability, and securing meeting venues in 5 different countries. I need it by the end of the day." It was an impossible task, a test. "I'll have it for you in 3 hours," Elena replied calmly. For the first time, Damien Cross was caught off guard. He just stared at her, the strange, unsettling pull growing stronger. He wanted to dismiss her, to send her away and forget this inexplicable reaction. But his business sense, the very thing that made him so successful, recognized her value. And something else, something deeper, refused to let her go. "Fine," he clipped. "You're hired. My current assistant will show you to your desk. Don't be late tomorrow." He turned back to the window, a clear dismissal. Elena stood, a small triumphant smile playing on her lips. "Thank you, Mr. Cross. You won't regret this." She turned and walked out of the office, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor. The moment the door shut behind her, a guttural growl rumbled in Damien's chest, a sound that wasn't entirely his own. His inner wolf, the primal beast he kept chained, was roaring, its voice echoing in his mind with a single, earth-shattering word. "Mate." He slammed his fist on the desk, the wood groaning under the impact. He snarled to himself, his golden eyes flashing. Impossible. If you're loving how this story's unfolding, you're part of what makes the Gracie Werewolf story bank grow. The connection between these characters, the tension, the mystery. It's what we live for. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, and honestly, that's all because of your amazing support and passion for these stories. We're a small channel, and every single viewer, every like, every comment, means the world. If you'd love to keep more stories like this alive and help us create even more chapters of Elena and Damien's journey, you can support the channel through the link in the description below. Every coffee you buy for us is another late night we can spend writing and bringing this magic to you. Thank you for being a part of this pack. Now, let's get back to the story. Elena walked into Sterling Corp. Like a breath of fresh air in a room that had been stale for years. Her first week was a whirlwind. My meticulously organized schedules, she streamlined them. My bulletproof marketing strategies, she found holes I hadn't seen in a decade and patched them with innovative ideas that were, frankly, brilliant. She wasn't just an assistant. She was a force of nature. And she wasn't afraid of me, not one bit. Everyone else in this company either flinched or fawned when I entered a room. They spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting away from mine. Not Elena. She met my gaze head on, her chin held high, a challenge sparkling in her intelligent eyes. Every single time, it was like a jolt of electricity, making my pulse hammer against my ribs. A primal, unfamiliar beat that was both infuriating and intoxicating. I tried to dismiss her, to put her back in her place. This proposal is adequate, Miss Vance, I'd say, my voice clipped and cold, pushing her report back across the polished mahogany of the boardroom table. But it lacks depth. Instead of wilting, she'd lean forward, her scent something like rain-soaked earth and wildflowers filling my senses. With all due respect, Mr. Sterling, she'd counter, her voice steady. If you look at the projections on page 5, you'll see the market research supports a more aggressive approach. We're leaving money on the table by being too cautious, and damn it, she was always right. I was the apex predator in this corporate jungle, yet this woman, with her sharp mind and unwavering stare, was making me feel like the one being hunted. The tension became a character of its own in our story, a third party present in every meeting. It lived in the space between us, crackling like static electricity. Our days were a carefully choreographed dance of avoidance and collision. In the crowded boardroom, my eyes would find hers across the table, a silent, loaded conversation passing between us that no one else could decipher. A stolen glance that lasted a second too long. When she handed me a file, our hands would brush, a seemingly innocent contact that sent a searing heat up my arm, making the wolf under my skin stir restlessly. It took every ounce of my control not to snatch my hand back, or worse, to grab hers and not let go. Late nights became our new normal. We were a team, pushing against impossible deadlines, the city lights twinkling outside my penthouse office window. The rest of the building would be dark and silent, but in our little bubble of light, the air was thick with unspoken things. We'd be hunched over spreadsheets, the only sounds the soft clicking of keyboards and the rustle of paper. I'd watch her, the way she chewed on her lip when she was concentrating, the way a loose strand of hair fell across her face. These quiet moments were more dangerous than our boardroom battles. Here, with my guard down, the lines between boss and employee, man and woman, began to blur into something I couldn't define. My control, the one thing I valued above all else, was slipping through my fingers like sand. And it was all because of her. The wolf, my other half, the beast I had spent my entire life mastering, was beginning to surface at the most inopportune times. It was a low growl in my chest, a tightening of my muscles, a flash of gold in my eyes that I had to fight to suppress. It happened when Mark from accounting lingered by her desk a little too long, his laugh a little too loud. My fist would clench under the table, my knuckles turning white. I could hear his heartbeat from across the room, smell the cloying scent of his cologne trying to mask her natural fragrance. Jealousy, a raw, possessive instinct I hadn't felt in years, surged through me. To hide it, to regain some semblance of power, I became cruel. I lashed out. "Is this the best you can do, Elena?" I expected more. I'd snarl, tossing a flawless report onto her desk. The hurt that flashed in her eyes was a physical blow, and the wolf recoiled, ashamed. But the man, the CEO Damien Sterling, needed to maintain his distance. He needed to push her away before she got close enough to see the monster lurking beneath the bespoke suit. I was protecting her from me. Or maybe I was protecting myself from the way she made me feel. Human, vulnerable. One evening, I had to step out for an urgent call. I left Elena in my office to finalize the quarterly presentation. When I returned, I found her standing frozen by my desk. Her gaze was fixed on a single, sealed manila folder I had carelessly left out. It was old, the edges worn, the stamped letters stark against the aged paper. Lupus Project. My blood ran cold. It was a relic from my family's past, a dark chapter I kept locked away. But as I looked at Elena, a strange sense of recognition flickered in her expression. It was more than just curiosity. It was as if she'd seen that word before. As if, like a phantom whisper in the back of her mind, it had been haunting her too. She didn't mention it, and I didn't ask. We worked in a strained silence for the rest of the night. After she finally left, I stayed behind, the quiet of the office amplifying the storm raging inside me. The pressure was immense. The stress of the company, the proximity of Elena, the constant fight to keep the wolf chained, it was all becoming too much. I loosened my tie, pacing the length of my office like a caged animal. A wave of frustration and raw power washed over me. My vision blurred, my bones ached, and a sound tore from my throat, a sound I hadn't made in this office, in this human world, for a very long time. It wasn't a yell or a groan. It was a low, guttural growl, rumbling from deep within my chest. A sound that was not, and could never be, human. And then I heard it, a soft gasp from the hallway. My head snapped up. Standing in the doorway, her face pale in the dim light, was Elena. Her eyes were wide with a mixture of confusion and sheer, unadulterated terror. She had heard me. She had come back for something she forgot, and she had heard the beast I tried so desperately to hide. The mask was shattered, and in her terrified eyes, I saw my carefully constructed world begin to crumble. Thank you so much for joining me on this chapter of our story. If you're as captivated as I am and need to know what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means the world and keeps these stories coming. We'll see you in the next video. The workday was finally winding down. Most of the office had already emptied out, the usual hustle and bustle replaced by a quiet, settled calm. I was just finishing up a few last-minute emails, my fingers flying across the keyboard, when I realized I was one of the last ones left. Time to head home. I gathered my things, slung my bag over my shoulder, and made my way to the elevators. As I approached, the doors to one of the cars were just beginning to slide shut. Hold the elevator, I called out, quickening my pace. A hand shot out, stopping the doors just in time. I slipped inside, breathless. Thanks, I mumbled, looking up to see who my late-night savior was. Of course, it was him, Damien Cross. He gave me a curt nod, his expression as unreadable as ever. The doors closed, sealing us in the small, sterile box. We stood in silence, the only sound the soft whir of the elevator descending. I stole a glance at him from the corner of my eye. Even in the unflattering fluorescent light, he was intimidatingly handsome. All sharp angles and controlled power, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my rent. I'd always found him compelling. There was a magnetic pull to him that was hard to ignore, even though he barely ever spoke to me, or anyone else for that matter. We were about halfway down when it happened. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out completely, plunging us into absolute darkness. The elevator jolted to a sudden, sickening halt, throwing me off balance. I stumbled forward, my hands flying out to catch myself, and they landed squarely on his chest. It was like hitting a wall of solid muscle. For a second, everything was still. Then, with a low hum, the emergency light flickered on, casting the small space in a dim, eerie orange glow. I quickly pulled my hands back as if I'd been burned. Sorry, I whispered, my voice sounding unnaturally loud in the confined space. He didn't answer. The silence stretched, thick and heavy, broken only by the low buzz of the emergency light. That's when I noticed it. His breathing. It wasn't the calm, measured rhythm of a man in control. It was heavy, ragged, almost painful. I looked closer. In the strange, dim light, I could see his hands, clenched into tight fists at his sides. They were trembling. A muscle in his jaw was working furiously, and a fine sheen of sweat had broken out on his forehead. I could practically feel the tension radiating off him, a frantic energy that made the air crackle. His pulse was frantic, hammering beat against the glass walls of the elevator, a wild rhythm that seemed to echo in my own chest. Something was very, very wrong. "Mr. Cross?" I asked, my voice soft. "Are you okay?" He flinched, his head snapping towards me. "Stay away," he ground out. His voice was a shock. It wasn't his usual deep, smooth tone. This was different, deeper, rougher, like gravel scraping against stone. It held a raw, guttural edge that sent a shiver down my spine, but not a fear. It was something else, something familiar. I took a hesitant step closer, ignoring his warning. I don't know why. Some instinct I couldn't explain was pulling me toward him. "Damien," I said, using his first name without thinking. That's when his control shattered. He let out a sound, a low growl that vibrated through the floor. He lifted his head, and his eyes met mine. They weren't their usual cool gray. They were glowing, a brilliant molten gold, with pupils that had narrowed into sharp, vertical slits. Predator's eyes. A gasp escaped my lips, but it wasn't a sound of terror. It was a gasp of recognition. My mind reeled. It was impossible, illogical, but seeing him like this, it felt right. It felt like coming home. Something deep inside me, a dormant, sleeping part of my soul, stirred and remembered. A memory that wasn't mine yet was. The wolf. The wolf within Damien roared, a silent, possessive declaration that echoed in my very bones. Mine. He stared at me, his golden eyes wide with a mixture of shock and something else I couldn't name. His chest was heaving, the growl still rumbling deep in his throat. He opened his mouth as if to say something important. But before a single word could escape, the main lights flickered back to life with a loud buzz. The elevator gave a lurch and then resumed its smooth descent as if nothing had happened. The spell was broken. The golden glow in his eyes vanished, replaced by a look of sheer panic. The moment the doors slid open on the ground floor, he bolted. He didn't look back, didn't say a word. He just ran, disappearing into the night, leaving me alone in the elevator, shaken, breathless, and utterly confused. My heart was pounding, my body humming with a strange, new energy. What had just happened? That night, sleep offered no escape. My dreams were a whirlwind of fragmented images. I was running through a dense, moonlit forest, the damp earth cool beneath my bare feet. The air was filled with the scent of pine and wild things. And then, a sound. A long, mournful howl that called to me, that pulled at my soul. I saw a flash of a blood-red moon hanging low in the sky, and a voice whispered through the trees, a promise that felt ancient and unbreakable. "No matter how many lives it takes, I'll find you." I woke with a start, the words still echoing in my ears. The morning light was filtering through my blinds, but the dream felt more real than my own bedroom. Shaken, I got ready and headed into the office, my mind still reeling. The encounter in the elevator, the dream, it all felt connected. As I walked down the deserted hallway towards my office, I stopped dead. There on Damien's office door were deep, deliberate scratches gouged into the wood, claw marks. My breath hitched. I stepped closer, an inexplicable pull drawing me in. And then I smelled it. A complex, intoxicating scent clung to the air around the door. It was musky, wild, and undeniably his. But underneath it, fainter but just as clear, was another scent. Mine. The two were intertwined, tangled together in a way that felt both impossible and inevitable. My world had just been turned upside down, and I had a terrifying, exhilarating feeling that this was only the beginning. If you're feeling that same pulse between them right now, that undeniable pull, you're not alone. You're part of Gracie Werewolf Story Bank's growing family. We live for these moments, these connections that defy explanation. Every story we tell is a piece of our heart, and your support is what keeps that heart beating. It helps us keep telling stories that make you feel, that make you wonder, and that remind you of the wildness just beneath the surface. If you want to help us keep the magic alive, you'll find our coffee link in the description below. It's your way of saying, keep howling, Gracie. Thank you so much for listening and for being a part of this journey with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. The silence in Crossdeck Tower was a living thing, heavy and cold. It had been days since Damien had brought me here, days filled with a strange, sterile routine. I'd wander the pristine halls, a ghost in a glass castle, while he attended meetings, his face a carefully constructed mask of corporate indifference. But late one afternoon, as I passed the main boardroom, the mask slipped. The door was slightly ajar, and voices, low and urgent, spilled into the hallway. My feet stopped on their own accord. I leaned closer, my ear pressed against the cool wood. The genetic anomaly is unprecedented, an unfamiliar voice, sharp with clinical curiosity. It doesn't match any known markers. What about the lupus project? Another voice asked, this one deeper, laced with authority. Could there be a connection? Unlikely. The first voice replied. That line was dormant. This is something else entirely. We need to monitor the test subject closely. We can't afford another incident. Test subject? The words hit me like a physical blow. They were talking about me. My blood ran cold. The sterile environment, the constant, subtle observation, it wasn't for my protection. It was for theirs. I stumbled back, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to find Damien. I had to know the truth. I found him in his penthouse office, staring out at the sprawling city lights below, a glass of something dark in his hand. He didn't turn as I entered, but I saw his shoulders tense. I heard them, I said, my voice shaking but firm. The board. They called me a test subject. They talked about a genetic anomaly, and something called the lupus project. What is going on, Damien? He took a slow sip from his glass before finally turning to face me. The mask was back in place, but his eyes were a storm of emotions. He couldn't hide. Elena, it's complicated. Complicated? I let out a short, incredulous laugh. You bring me here, lock me in this gilded cage, and tell me it's complicated. Talk to me, Damien. I deserve to know. His jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand. The condescension in his tone was the final straw. I marched right up to him, my anger overriding my fear. Try me. I stood my ground, staring him down, refusing to be dismissed. He sighed, a long, weary sound that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, messing it up for the first time since I'd met him. Fine, he said, his voice dropping to a low, almost conspiratorial whisper. Crosstech. It isn't just a biotech firm. He paused, watching my reaction, gauging my belief. We provide a sanctuary, protection, for a society that lives hidden in plain sight, right alongside humans. He took a deep breath. My kind, werewolves. I stared at him. The silence stretched, thick and absurd. And then, I laughed. It wasn't a gentle chuckle. It was a loud, hysterical burst of disbelief. Werewolves? You're telling me you're a werewolf? Like in the movies? That's your big secret? I shook my head, feeling a strange mix of disappointment and bewilderment. I thought it was something serious. His face remained impassive, his gaze unwavering. He didn't try to convince me further. He just watched me, frustrated and overwhelmed. I turned away from him, needing to put some distance between us. I paced the room, my mind racing. This is insane. You think I'm just going to believe? My words were cut short by a sharp, stinging pain. I had gestured wildly, my hand, swiping across a stack of papers on his desk. Underneath them, the metal teeth of a small paper shredder I hadn't noticed were waiting. I looked down. A deep, clean cut sliced across the palm of my hand. Bright red blood welled up instantly, dripping onto the pristine white carpet. Oh, great, I muttered, clutching my hand. I looked up to ask for a bandage, but the words died in my throat. Damien had frozen. He was statue still, his entire body rigid, but it was his eyes that terrified me. The cool gray had vanished, replaced by a blazing, predatory gold. His nostrils flared, and he took a sharp, deep breath as if tasting the very air between us. The atmosphere in the room shifted, becoming charged, electric, and dangerous. Your blood, he whispered, his voice a low growl I barely recognized. The scent, it filled the room, filled his senses. It was intoxicating, familiar, and utterly impossible. He took a hesitant step forward, drawn by an instinct more powerful than reason. Then another. He stood before me, his golden eyes fixed on the crimson drops falling from my hand. He didn't look at the wound. He looked past it, as if he could see right into my veins, into my very DNA. It's not human, he breathed, the realization dawning on his face like a terrifying sunrise. All his control, all his carefully built walls, crumbled in that single moment. The blood that coursed through my veins wasn't just non-human. It carried a signature, An ancient, powerful wolf signature his kind believed had been wiped from the earth centuries ago. A signature he knew intimately, one he had mourned for a lifetime. His Luna's signature. The predator in his eyes softened, replaced by a raw, aching vulnerability. His heart, shielded by centuries of grief and duty, cracked wide open. It couldn't be. And yet, the scent was undeniable. The pull was irresistible. Could fate be so cruel, so kind, as to bring her back to him? Reborn in this impossible, fragile human form? Was this Elena? His Elena? He reached out, his hand trembling, not to touch my wound, but as if to touch a ghost. Hope, a feeling he had long since buried, surged through him with the force of a tidal wave, threatening to drown him. Later that night, the world outside his window was a blur of indifferent lights. Damien sat alone, the scent of my blood still haunting him, his mind a whirlwind of hope and fear. An email notification pinged on his laptop, breaking the silence. He opened it without thinking. The sender's name made his blood run cold. Luca Draven, his oldest rival, a wolf who thrived on chaos and cruelty. The message contained only a single, chilling line. You found her first, but she was mine in another life. The hum of the city seemed to fade into a low thrum the moment he walked into Crosstech's lobby. They called him Luca Draven, a name that slid off the tongue like silk and poison. He was the head of a rival tech giant, here to discuss a partnership that Damien had been wary of from the start. But I hadn't expected him. Tall, built like a predator in a bespoke suit, with silver eyes that seemed to see right through the corporate fog to the wild thing hiding beneath my skin. His smile was a masterpiece of charm, but it didn't reach those eyes. In their depths, I saw a storm, a violence that was both terrifying and strangely familiar. As Damien introduced us, Luca took my hand. His touch was like a spark on dry tinder, sending a jolt straight up my arm. Elena, he said, his voice a low, gravelly purr that vibrated through me. A pleasure. I've heard so much about you. His thumb brushed over my knuckles, a possessive, knowing gesture that made the hairs on my neck stand up. I felt an inexplicable pull, a magnetic force drawing me in, even as every instinct screamed danger. It was a dizzying sensation, like recognizing a ghost from a past life. Damien's hand settled on the small of my back, a solid, grounding presence. His jaw was tight, his own predatory instincts flaring in response to the challenge that had just walked into his territory. The air crackled with unspoken tension, a silent war of dominance waged over a handshake. Luca's silver eyes flicked to Damien's hand on me, and his smile sharpened, becoming a blade. I look forward to our collaboration, Luca said, his gaze returning to mine, holding a promise of something far more than business. That night was the annual Crosstech Charity Gala. The ballroom was a sea of glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos, a perfect picture of civilized society. But under the surface, the ancient, primal world was stirring. Damien stood by my side, a king in his domain, his hand possessively on my waist. He was breathtakingly handsome, the very picture of power and control. But his control was being tested. When the music began, it wasn't Damien who reached for me. It was Luca. He moved with a liquid grace that defied his size, appearing before me as if summoned. May I have this dance? He asked, though it wasn't a question. His silver eyes locked onto mine, daring me to refuse. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Damien's posture stiffen, his knuckles white where he gripped his champagne flute. The air grew thick, heavy with his silent, simmering rage. To avoid a public scene, I let Luca lead me to the dance floor. The moment his arm wrapped around my waist, the world tilted. His hand burned through the fabric of my dress, his other hand engulfing mine. We moved together seamlessly, as if we'd danced this dance 1,000 times before. He held me closer than was appropriate, his chin brushing my hair, his scent pine, night air, and something wild and uniquely him filling my senses. It was intoxicating and terrifying. As we swayed to the melody, my mind fractured. Flashes, vivid and overwhelming, struck me like lightning. I saw a forest under a full moon, ancient and vast. I was running, not in this human form, but on 4 paws, the wind whipping through my fur. And beside me, they were there, 2 massive wolves. One, a dark shadow with eyes of molten gold, Damien. The other, a silver phantom with eyes like chips of ice, Luca. We were a pack, 2 alphas, 1 fate. The memory was so real, so visceral, that I stumbled. Luca's grip tightened, steadying me. He leaned in, his lips brushing my ear. Remembering. Are we? He whispered, his voice a low caress that sent shivers down my spine. The music ended, but he didn't let go. Across the room, I could feel Damien's glare, a physical force. He was a storm about to break, a beast straining at its leash. The tension was a living thing, a cord stretched to its breaking point between the three of us. The rest of the evening was a blur. I made my excuses, needing to escape the suffocating pressure, the weight of a past I couldn't grasp. I fled to the relative quiet of the underground parking lot, the cool night air a balm on my heated skin. I leaned against my car, my heart hammering against my ribs, trying to make sense of the chaotic images in my head. Who was I? What were they to me? A shadow detached itself from the concrete pillars. Luca, he had followed me. He moved with a silent, predatory grace, cornering me against my car. The charming smile was gone, replaced by a raw, hungry intensity. Those silver eyes devoured me, filled with centuries of longing and frustration. You were never meant for him, he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. He braced a hand on the car beside my head, trapping me. His proximity was overwhelming, his scent making my head spin. You were mine first. The words hung in the air, shattering the last of my composure. Mine? Before I could form a question, before I could even breathe, he was gone. He didn't walk away. He vanished into the shadows, as if the night itself had swallowed him whole. I was left alone, trembling, my mind reeling from his declaration. A moment later, Damien found me. He strode over, his face a mask of thunderous fury and deep concern. Elena, what did he say to you? He reached for me, his touch gentle despite the rage radiating from him. As his fingers brushed my arm, I looked up past him. Through a gap in the concrete ceiling, the full moon shone down, a perfect, luminous disk. A strange power surged through my veins, hot and wild. A deep primal ache started in my bones, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. My wolf, dormant for so long, was waking up under the moonlight, and I didn't know if I could control it. This part always gives me chills. If you're feeling them too, you're already one of us. This is the kind of story that gets under your skin and stays there. And that's exactly what the Gracie Werewolf Story Bank is all about. We're built by listeners like you, people who crave that thrill, that ancient magic. Every single moment of this world, from the tension in the ballroom to the whispers in the dark, is powered by your support. If you'd love to keep this world spinning, to help us unravel this fate between Elena, Damien, and Luca, show some love through the coffee link below. You're not just buying a coffee or supporting a story. You're fueling a dream and becoming part of our pack. Thank you for being here. Now, let's see what happens when that wolf awakens. The fever hits me like a physical blow, a wildfire consuming me from the inside out. My skin feels like it's splitting apart, my bones rearranging themselves under a force I can't control. I'm thrashing, tangled in the sheets, a scream caught in my throat. It's not just pain. It's a storm of fragmented memories, clawing their way to the surface. Paws pounding on damp earth, the scent of pine sharp in the cold night air. I'm running, not on 2 legs, but on 4. The wind whips through my fur, a joyous, wild freedom I haven't felt in years, but a deep primal fear chases close behind. The pack, my family, we're running from something. Then, the world turns to orange and black. The smell of burning wood, of scorched fur, fills my senses, choking me. A roaring inferno, consuming our den, consuming everything. I see flashes of silver fur, hear the panicked yelps of my packmates. They're trapped, and I'm running away. A lone wolf, a survivor riddled with guilt. Through the haze of pain and fire, another memory flickers. A voice, deep and resonant, a lifeline in the chaos. It's Damien. He's calling my name. Elena, Elena. Hold on. His voice is laced with a desperation that mirrors my own. I remember seeing his face, his eyes wide with terror, before everything went dark. He was there. He was always there. I'm vaguely aware of a cool cloth on my forehead, of a steady presence that never leaves my side. It's him, Damien. He's a silhouette against the dim light filtering through the window, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion, but he doesn't move. 1 night bleeds into 2, then 3. He's a constant, an anchor in my raging sea of agony. I hear him murmuring, sometimes to me, sometimes to himself. Just hold on, Elena. Please, just hold on. The pain crests, an unbearable wave that threatens to tear me apart. I arch my back, a raw sound of pure agony finally escaping my lips. In that moment, I feel strong arms wrap around me, holding me tight, grounding me. His carefully constructed control finally shatters. He's holding me, not as a doctor, not as a guardian, but as someone who's terrified of losing me. His breath is warm against my ear as he whispers, his voice trembling but firm. You don't have to fight it. Stop fighting, Elena. Just breathe. I'm here. I've got you. His words are the permission I didn't know I needed. I stop fighting the transformation, the memories, the pain. I let it wash over me, surrendering to the tide. And as I do, the agony begins to recede, replaced by a strange, humming power that settles deep within my bones. It feels familiar. It feels like me. Slowly, as if lifting the heaviest weight in the world, I open my eyes. The room is hazy at first, but one thing is crystal clear. Damien's face inches from mine. His eyes are filled with a universe of worry, hope, and something else. Something that looks like years of waiting. He gasps softly as he looks into my eyes. I can feel the change in them. A warmth, a power. The final wall in my mind crumbles. It all comes rushing back. The pack, the fire, the escape. Him, finding me, watching over me, protecting me even when I didn't know I needed it. A single perfect tear escapes the corner of my eye. My voice is a hoarse whisper, full of a history I've only just reclaimed. You waited for me. A ghost of a smile touches his lips, relief washing over his tired features. His answer is simple, absolute, holding the weight of a decade of devotion. Always. For a single, perfect moment, the world is just us. The pain is gone. The past is found, and the future feels possible. A new beginning, right here in his arms. But the moment shatters like glass. Damien's phone buzzes violently on the nightstand, an intrusion on our sacred silence. He glances at it, his expression hardening in an instant. The name on the screen makes my new blood run cold. What is it? I ask, already dreading the answer. He looks at me, his eyes now filled with a new kind of fear, a familiar one. It's from one of my contacts inside the agency. He reads the message, his voice dropping to a grim, chilling tone. Project Lupus has been reactivated. Luca, he's taken control. The message says he's initiated the final protocol. He's not just hunting strays anymore. He's using it to wipe out all remaining wolves. All of us. The server room was a symphony of chaos. Red lights flashed across rows of humming machines, each one a digital fortress. Luca was trying to breach. Alarms blared, a piercing shriek that echoed the one in my own head. We had to stop him. This wasn't just about corporate secrets anymore. It was about the soul of every pack he wanted to control. Glass shattered from above, moonlight brilliant and white, sliced through the darkness, illuminating the swirling dust and the glint of exposed wires. And there he was. Lucas stood amidst the wreckage, a predator in a bespoke suit, his eyes glowing with an unholy light. He wasn't just hacking servers. He was trying to hack our very existence. Elena, he purred, his voice a low growl that vibrated through the floor. You finally came to join the winning side. He gestured to a massive monitor displaying a web of interconnected networks, each node representing a different pack, all slowly turning red under his influence. Imagine it. No more squabbling alphas, no more territorial disputes. Just one unified force, under one command. Our command. Your command, you mean? I shot back, my voice steadier than I felt. The air crackled with energy, the raw power he was trying to harness. It felt like 1,000 volts surging through the room. He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Details. You have the key, Elena. The Luna blood, the original line. With you, I won't have to force them. They will bow. They will crave our rule. He took a step closer, his predatory gaze fixed on me. Give me your power. Be my queen. I could feel the pull of his words, a siren's song promising order from chaos, but it was a twisted harmony. The strength Damien had helped me find, the strength that was mine all along, now roared to life. I am no one's queen, I declared, planting my feet. And I will never be your key. His face contorted in a snarl of fury. Then you are just another obstacle. He lunged, not like a man, but like a beast, uncaged. I met him head on, the primal energy within me rising to form a shield. The impact threw me back, but I held my ground. Sparks flew where our power clashed, a violent storm of blue and red. The fight was a blur of motion and raw will. He was stronger, more experienced in wielding this dark end of our nature. But I was faster, fueled by a righteous fire to protect those I loved. We were a whirlwind of corporate espionage and ancient war, crashing through server racks, the digital world dying around us as our primal conflict raged. Just as his power began to overwhelm mine, the doors burst open. Damien stood there, silhouetted against the hallway lights. He was bleeding from a gash on his arm, his suit torn, but his eyes were fixed on me, blazing with fierce determination. "Get away from her," he growled, the sound pure alpha. The moment our eyes met, something clicked, a final puzzle piece snapping into place. It wasn't just a feeling. It was a seismic shift in my soul. A current of energy, warm and powerful, flowed between us, connecting us, completing us. Alpha and Luna. The titles weren't just labels anymore. They were a living, breathing bond, a circuit of power made whole. Lucas staggered back, shielding his eyes as a silver light erupted from me, intertwining with a golden aura flaring from Damien. Our wolves rose within us, not as separate beasts hungry for a fight, but as two halves of a single, majestic entity. They weren't rising for violence, but for balance, a perfect, harmonious power that pushed back the darkness. Luca commanded. The combined force was overwhelming. It slammed into Luca, throwing him against the main console with a sickening crunch. The red lights on the monitors flickered and died, one by one, returning to a stable, peaceful green. The alarms fell silent. He slid to the floor, the unholy light in his eyes fading, replaced by a defeated haze. It was over. A collective sigh of relief seemed to pass through the room. Damien rushed to my side, his hand finding mine, our shared power humming between our palms. We stood over Luca, watching the life drain from him. He looked up, a faint, chilling smile playing on his lips. With his last ragged breath, he whispered, his words a final, devastating blow. "You think you're so special. You're not the only Luna he lost." The words hung in the sudden silence, a poison dart hitting its mark. Who was he? Lost? My blood ran cold. The victory felt hollow, replaced by a dawning, terrifying new question. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a much darker story. Weeks crawl by, painting the city with a veneer of normalcy. The scarred steel and shattered glass of Crossdeck Tower are slowly, meticulously being replaced. New panes of glass catch the morning sun, reflecting a city that's healing, just like us. Life finds a new rhythm, a delicate dance between two worlds that have become my own. Mornings start with the rich aroma of coffee, the quiet clink of spoons against ceramic mugs. Damien and I sit at our kitchen island, the city waking up below us. Sometimes we talk about Crossdeck's rebuilding efforts, logistics, and quarterly reports. He'll trace a new architectural plan on a tablet, and I'll point out a structural vulnerability he missed. My Luna instincts, it turns out, are surprisingly applicable to corporate security. Other mornings, we say nothing at all. He'll just reach across the cool marble, his fingers finding mine. His thumb will stroke the back of my hand, a silent conversation passing between us. In his eyes, I see a quiet awe, a constant wonder that I'm still here, that we're still here. I'm no longer just Elena, the woman he fell for. I'm also the Luna, the leader of a pack he's come to respect, even rely on. It's a duality that could have torn us apart, but instead, it has woven us closer together, creating a bond stronger than steel. He adjusts my collar before he leaves for a board meeting, a small, proprietary gesture that screams protection. I'll catch him watching me from across a crowded room at a charity gala, his gaze a physical shield against the prying eyes of the city's elite. He sees me, all of me, the strategist, the fighter, the leader, and the woman who still loves the quiet moments with him more than anything. Our love isn't loud or declarative anymore. It doesn't need to be. It lives in the shared breakfasts, the knowing smiles, the weight of his hand on the small of my back. It's a deep, settled thing, a foundation we've built from the rubble of our past. My days are a blur of boardrooms and forest clearings. One moment, I'm negotiating a multi-million-dollar contract for Crossdeck's new philanthropic wing. The next, I'm mediating a territorial dispute between two hot-headed young wolves near the old quarry. I wear designer suits and then trade them for practical leather and boots. My phone buzzes with reminders for investor calls and pack meetings. It's exhausting, exhilarating, and strangely whole. I'm living both halves of my soul, and with Damien by my side, I feel like I can finally breathe. Peace settles over the pack too. We're rebuilding, just like Crossteck. The younger wolves are training with a newfound purpose, their energy channeled into protecting our territory, not just fighting for scraps. The elders are sharing old stories, their voices weaving a tapestry of our history, reminding us of who we are. There's a sense of hope in the air, a feeling that we've weathered the worst of the storm. As the days shorten and the nights grow cooler, a familiar silver disk begins to wax in the sky. The full moon is coming. It used to be a source of anxiety, a monthly reminder of the beast within. Now, it feels different. It's a source of power, a connection to my pack, to my very essence. I look forward to the pull, the surge of energy, the run through the silent woods. One night, Damien and I stand on the balcony of our penthouse, the city lights twinkling below like a fallen constellation. The moon is a perfect, luminous orb hanging in the inky blackness. He wraps his arms around me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. We stand in comfortable silence, watching the moon cast its ethereal glow over the world. It's a perfect moment, a snapshot of the peace we've fought so hard to win. But peace is a fragile thing. That night, sleep doesn't come easy. I toss and turn, the sheets tangling around my legs. And then, I fall into a dream. I'm not in our bed, not in the city. I'm in a dense, unfamiliar forest. The air is thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. Mist clings to the ground, and the moonlight struggles to pierce the dense canopy above. It's cold, so cold, and then I hear it. It starts as a whisper on the wind, a faint, sorrowful sound that makes the hair on my arms stand on end. It's a howl, but not one I recognize. It's not the guttural cry of a male wolf, but something higher, more melodic, laced with an agony that echoes in my soul. It's a woman's voice. It grows louder, closer. The sound wraps around me, a chilling lament that seems to come from the very trees themselves. And then, woven into the mournful cry, I hear a single word, a desperate plea carried on the wind. Elena. My eyes snap open. I'm back in our bedroom, tangled in the sheets, my heart hammering against my ribs. The city is silent outside our window. Damien is sleeping soundly beside me, his breathing deep and even. It was just a dream, a nightmare. I tell myself to forget it, to let the lingering fear dissipate into the darkness. But the next night, it happens again. The same misty forest, the same bone-chilling cold, the same heartbreaking howl. This time, the voice is clearer, more insistent. Elena, find me. I wake up with a gasp, sweat beading on my forehead. This isn't just a dream. My Luna instincts are screaming at me, a primal alarm bell ringing in the depths of my being. This is a call, a summons. Someone somewhere is reaching out to me. A she-wolf, and she's in trouble. The days leading up to the full moon are tense. I try to hide my unease from Damien, but he notices everything. He sees the way I stare into space, the way I flinch at sudden noises. He sees the dark circles under my eyes. He holds me tighter at night, a silent offer of strength, but he doesn't push. He knows this is something I have to face on my own terms. The night of the full moon arrives. Its light floods our bedroom, painting everything in shades of silver and shadow. I can't fight the dream anymore. I let it pull me under, this time willingly. I'm back in the forest. The howl is immediate, a visceral cry of pain that tears through the silence. I follow the sound, pushing through thorny branches and over moss-covered roots. The voice is desperate now, ragged with exhaustion, but it never stops calling my name. Elena? I break through into a small clearing. In the center, bathed in the stark moonlight, is the source of the cry. But it's not a wolf. It's the ethereal, shimmering form of a woman. Her figure is translucent like smoke, her features indistinct but achingly familiar. As I step closer, a chilling recognition washes over me. I've seen this face before, in old photographs from Damien's family albums. A cold dread settles in my stomach. This is no stranger. This is a ghost from a past I thought was buried. The past isn't done with us. It was never really gone. Sometimes fate doesn't end a story. It just turns the page. If this story made you feel something real, something that made your own heart beat a little faster, then you're already family. The Gracie Werewolf Story Bank hit 1,000 subscribers because of your love and your passion for the worlds we build together. You are the heartbeat of this channel. And with your support, we can keep telling these stories, keep exploring these moonlit worlds, and reach for the stars. If you'd like to help us keep the magic alive, you can buy us a coffee using the link below. Every little bit helps us continue creating these worlds for you, one chapter, one howl, one heartbeat at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.